Sore?
Sore? So, oh, man.
Good morning, sore.
Take two. Take two. Good morning.
I'm doing well.
Yeah. We have a very special guest here in the Rebellion today.
For those watching on YouTube, they can see, of course.
Yeah. We have the governor-elect of the
Civitan.
I can never say that. Civitan. The first vice president of GFRW and the Republican Women of Forsyth County president. Said all this
yes.
right.
Currently, yes.
Kelli Grant Warren, welcome to the Rebellion. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Oh, thank you. I feel honored to be here. I'm very excited about it. A
Are
little nervous,
you? A
too.
little nervous?
I'm a little nervous.
Relax. This is all amongst friends.
Yeah, I know.
4,000 of your closest friends in the Rebellion audience here. A lot here in Georgia as well. There's so much going on in the world right now with the parties, the country, the state, our local levels. I think we're pretty much in most of the same districts even. And between you and we were actually going to have one other guest, which we're going to postpone to another day just because of scheduling conflicts. But I saw such parallels between the two of you guys, and you guys are doing something unique. You guys, I see you headed towards a different path than one that you've been on, I think, most of your life. I wanted you to be able to come in and talk about your what you've seen, what you love, what you can't stand, the ins and outs, the trials, the tribulations of your roles within the GOP, within the Republican Party, what you're seeing now, and what you want to do. And at any rate, so
that's a lot of questions.
I know. We'll start off simple though. How long have you been politically involved?
In leadership positions, I just started in 2015.
Yeah, but I mean,
but I mean, I grew up with, my parents were, when I was younger, they were Birchers. They were John Birch Society.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, that's my earliest memories is them having family and friends over and them having discussions and lively debates, and so they were, my mother was a huge Larry McDonald fan. And I remember her wearing when he died, when the plane went down, she wore the black ribbon with the plane. I'm still trying to find that. I know it's somewhere in all her stuff. But
wow.
She was huge, and she was like, he was murdered. She was. So I was in high school by that point, early high school. But so I remember very conservative values, in our family, and my grandfather was very vocal and very conservative in his opinions, and so it was, I was exposed to it growing up, but it wasn't necessarily like, oh, we're GOP. It was,
it was Larry McDonald's a Democrat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He was a Democrat. And so he was a Democrat, but a fiscally conservative, constitutionalist. And so I actually had this conversation with my dad recently, and he said, if he had run as a Republican, he wouldn't have won. Because at that time, Georgia was still kind of transitioning over, I guess you would call it. And so, because I had asked him about that. I said, so whatever happened with John? He goes, well, he felt like John Birch Society got a little bit too, he said crazy. And I said,
we don't mince words here.
But he didn't, but he's like, it just was a little too much. Just started getting a little too... And I think maybe it was just too involved for him.
Yeah.
But he gave a lot of money to Larry McDonald. He was at his campaign kickoff. He was, they were big supporters. But in other words, based on principle, not based on party. Think about it. I mean,
that's kind of why we're involved in politics, is based on principle and not based on party. That's why we can get frustrated with the party. But Larry McDonald was the first one to say, Ron Paul called him when he was going to run for office, and Ron Paul was like, hey, what should I run as? And Larry said, like, in a second, he was like, whatever helps you win, like, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is maybe the reason why, people have said, hey, it's getting kind of crazy. One of the things that's hard to do, especially in politics, is keep your soul. I mean, you see it all the time. People, just they scrap their principles to kind of fit in a lot of times. They're not there. They don't have the conviction. They don't really have the principles. They don't have the knowledge, whatever it is. And then somebody says, hey, man, if you want to get reelected and you want to keep the seat, then you need to play ball. And they scrap those. And the Birchers, they're not known for bending on principle, a whole lot. So, I imagine, at some point, some people just have to say, hey, listen, I can't stay here and keep doing this. So it is a tall order, and I'll give the JBS guys a ton of credit for at least, standing on principles. I know they're, strict constitutionalists and all that. We don't think sometimes it goes far enough because of some of the flaws with the Constitution, obviously. But at any rate, so you grew up here in Georgia as well?
Yeah, I grew up in Stone Mountain.
Really?
Born and raised. I'm 5th generation, I believe, Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so original family.
So now, I'll tell you, the Stone Mountain area was a very different area back then.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, extremely different. Yeah. You're talking kind of this weird place out in the middle of the country back in the day. It wasn't, geez, oh, Pete, I remember, being out in Snellville when 316 and 124, is it 316 and 124
yeah.
cross or something like that?
Yeah. It was just two roads.
And you're just like, there's nothing
just the
out
intersection,
here.
And now it's like,
there's
boom.
like cows and everything else. So you've seen Georgia change quite a bit with GOP, with the Republican Party. You've seen obviously Democrats and other parties come and go as well. What the Republican Party is just kind of a natural fit for you, it sounds like.
Well, when you only have technically 2 options.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have to pull a car, when you go to vote, you have to say what you are.
Yeah.
So, and then I even went, my husband and I went the libertarian route for a little while there. And this was when my kids are now 31 and almost 29.
I was going to say, you better get this right.
Yeah.
They're listening.
And then, I have 5 grandkids too. So, and that's another thing that kind of, we can get into that.
Yeah.
But the older you get and the more you see and do, and then it's when you see your grandkids, it's kind of like, ooh, second chance to make an impression.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you
really start thinking about like, okay, their future and what's going to, 50 years from now when I'm gone, what's going to work. And then when you get down to it, it's principles. It's following and being true to your heart and being true to your principles. So anyway, I digress. But I can't remember where I was.
Yeah,
we were talking kind of about the progression of you were in the Republican Party and why that was and why that happened.
Why wasn't it the Democratic Party?
Oh well, there was just too many. I just didn't see eye to eye with a lot of the things that Democrats were doing.
Specifically,
I feel like that Democrats, in my opinion, and this is the way I saw it, is the Democrats kind of were like the herd mentality, like all have to do this, or give everybody.
What time period are we talking about at this point when you got back involved?
Oh well, when I had to make a decision to vote, when I was 18.
Yeah.
I got to vote in my first presidential election in '84, so I voted for Reagan. Stood in line for 4 hours in my pantyhose and my heels and my skirt. People used to dress up and go to the polls and stand in line all day.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing. And so, I had to make a decision then. But of course, I'd made the decision when my parents were voting Republican. So, you follow that route, So,
yeah, I did the same thing.
So I've never had, the libertarian, that's what it was. So when my kids were younger, at one point, and I cannot remember what was going on. Is there, so much history with our politics, but my husband and I decided we were going to vote libertarian.
Yeah.
Like we're done. We are done with what's going on. We're tired of the lies. Same thing I'm saying right now, And so we decided to vote libertarian. So my daughter's school, by this time we were up in Forsyth County.
Okay.
And so my daughter's teacher said, "Oh, we did an election in our class just to see what everybody was doing." She goes, "So, how many people are voting Democrat and how many are voting Republican?" And then my daughter's sitting there like this, and she goes, "So what are you voting?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm voting lesbitarian." It was the funniest thing. But because she'd heard us talking about it.
Yeah.
She'd heard us. And so we've been open to talking about, politics with our girls growing up. But I just thought that was a funny story. So
That's
that was
awesome.
our trip down.
Liberty Curious?
Liberty Curious?
There's always those 1 or 2 kids whose parents are different.
Yes.
And they just can't play along.
Yeah, that's I hear similar things out of my kids sometimes, and it's always like, is it the government, Dad? And yes, son, it is. You can always blame the government. So kind of you get through, raising your kids, and then, really kind of, I guess, maybe finding some free time with life, right?
Right. And so, and that's what I find is that once you raise your kids and they're out of the house, which they come back and leave and come back and all that, but, you do have a little more time and you're like, okay, so now what can I do? What can I do with my free time? And, so I had gotten involved a little bit before, when the girls were still in high school. I had gone to some Republican women's meetings and joined and met some of the local ladies and so forth, and had gone to a couple of GOP events here and there. Mm-hmm. And that was like, I don't know, 2007, 2008. So, when the elections would come around, it was like, oh, I got to go put signs out, or I got to go do, that. And then I would get involved and meet some people. So, but I really started really heavily involved around 2015. And that's when we kind of got the Republican women kind of got started back up. And Molly Cooper was president. Yep. And I had said, so what are you going to do about membership? I mean, don't you need to grow your membership? And she said, and who are you? I said, Kelli Warren. She goes, so you're our new membership chairperson. And I was like, all right, I like this lady. She's going to get it done. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got in there. And then, my next thing was she asked me to step in and be president. Yeah. When she moved over and went into leadership with the GOP, local GOP. So
nice.
Yep.
Okay. So that brings us up till about the time we met.
Yes.
Probably late 2016, I think.
Yep. So it was right after because I ran for a local, had run for county commissioner. So that ended in May of 2016.
Right.
And then that's when I took over being president of Republican Women right around that time, I believe.
Here in Forsyth County.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I feel like we're skipping over you running for county commissioner.
Yeah, we need to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, that's a whole
running for office is not like it's a daunting decision to make, and you realize that people are going to like judge you and so forth.
Yeah, if you really think it through, it is. But when you just go, sure, I'll do that. Wasn't that daunting when I made the decision until I got into it, and then I was like, whoa, what am I doing?
Yeah,
What's going on here?
I don't think anybody really understands it until they run.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Right.
I mean, there's just so many positive things that came out of it, and honestly, like I'm okay with not winning because there were so many positive things that came out of it. And so
meet a ton of people.
Oh yeah. I mean
really good people.
You really find out who's there for you and who isn't.
Yep.
You really find out.
Oh yeah.
That's a good thing to find out.
And so it's not that there weren't people that weren't there, but I'm saying you really find out who's there when you're in crunch time crisis and you're on no sleep and your stress level. You know who knows you and loves you.
Yeah, and who's down, who's not down, who the what do they call the winter warrior versus the sunshine patriots and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, and you obviously also find out who the people are who are absolutely bought and paid for as well.
Absolutely, yes.
And who are or paying for access and all that as well within your community. Yeah, I mean we don't have to name names if you don't want to, but no, I trust me. I've seen the same as you, and for me, that's why I'm so interested in your path because we're a different generation, and I think there's a big segment out there right now of people who are part of the baby boomer generation.
Yeah, I'm the last year. I'm the very last year of the baby boomer generation.
So what? You're almost
64.
Gen X.
Yeah, I'm 1964. I was born, so I'm the last year of baby boomers.
Okay, so and so like I'm that weird world of like almost Gen X, kind of millennial, but not. It's kind of like in the middle of something somewhere. So I kind of understand. Your generation is one of those generations that I think has it infinitely harder than Gen X. Definitely harder than the millennials in terms of just habits in terms of politics. And I don't think a lot of people talk about habits in terms of politics, but your generation was one of those first generations that was part of the New Deal. When that passed and people were like, oh, the greatest generation was the greatest generation. For me, I look at the greatest generation and go, look, you guys just fought a war that got rid of, Nazism, some fascism, some socialism and all that kind of stuff over there, some for a little while. And then you implement it here at home under FDR, and then the baby boomers are the first generation that think, oh well, this is America. This is the way it should be. It's a growing government. It's programmed media in terms of you had like maybe 3 channels at the most for a lot of things, and those were the official sources of news. Obviously, you had some print running around, but like the counterculture at that time wasn't much of a thing. I mean, it was smaller. It was abstract to a certain degree. You had guys like the Rothbards and the Miseses. You had you had
the hippies too and so forth, but there were just less tools to communicate with people, and so that it means it can't grow as fast as it should.
Exactly,
or wants to.
And it also meant that you guys had to go to something, and it gave you news. Right now, you can go. And you can go find news, and that's one of the habits I'm talking about. In terms of for the generation that has a habit of going and having news come to them,
right? Versus
going out and finding news that is thought provoking, that leads you down like new trails. And so how have you adjusted to that? I mean, do you find yourself still listening to some mainstream, or do you?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I was a Fox News,
So was I.
Every morning watched, and I was like, oh, listen, and they were funny and stuff too, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I would listen to that and go, okay, well, this is what's happening. Like that's what, that's where I got my news. And then I listened, of course, to talk radio. I mean, I grew up on talk radio listening to
who were your guys?
Ludlow Porch when I was growing up. My dad listened to Ring Radio with Ludlow Porch and of course Neil Bortz. I mean, I remember listening to him from way back.
Oh, I mean,
he was
around
in the 70s.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been around since the 70s. I don't know.
I think is what it was.
Is that when he hit the Atlanta market as well?
Yeah. Well,
really?
he started, I think, in the Atlanta market here.
He may have. Always been. Yeah, because I remember starting to pick him up in the early 90s.
Well, somebody died. Whoever was doing the talk show that morning had died.
Yeah.
And he just showed up to the radio station. They're like, "What?" He goes, "Well, your host died." They were just going to play a recorded thing or whatever. Threw him on the radio, and then look where he ended up.
Yeah.
So
I had no idea that's how that started.
Yeah, if you hear him tell the story, it's pretty funny. So I grew up listening to Neil. So again, he's not a party. He doesn't toe the line for any party.
Oh no,
he's an
independent thinker for sure.
Right, and so that always helped me kind of go, oh, I can challenge. Like he was a good person to listen to keep you kind of like, okay, but you're right about, like, I got my news in the car from talk radio, and then I would listen to Neil, and then Rush Limbaugh came on, and then Sean Hannity was in Atlanta at the time, way back in the day. Golly. He started out in Atlanta. He was morning. Yeah, he was morning. I was listening to him in 94, 93, 94 in Atlanta, and I think maybe So anyway, so I did that, but it was right after Trump got elected. I mean, we were so inundated with political garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, my brain was just like, whoa, I can't do this anymore. And so I just stopped watching Fox. Like, that was it. I think the last time I watched was the election.
For actual news, right?
I don't even. I have not watched it.
Yeah.
I haven't. And I realize now, I'm like, wow, that's been almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And I get my news from going online or talking to other people. And then if I hear something, I'm like, ooh, I want to know about that. Then I'll go Google it, and then I'll go and see what the different news agencies are saying.
Right. So
yeah, I've become more like, oh, wait, they're putting it this way. They're putting it this. Oh, wait, we've got different angles here. Wow, we got different opinions. And then the world of podcasts.
Yeah.
Wow, that's opened up a whole.
How long you been listening to podcasts?
I don't know. Right before I started listening to you guys, I guess I had already gotten into some, like the true murder mysteries and
people love
Up
that
and
stuff.
Vanished. The Up and Vanished thing, I got hooked on, and I can't remember. But when I realized that all the stuff that was out there, I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm a podcast kind of a freak. I mean, I'll find a topic and I'll be like, oh, okay, vaccines. Let me see what they have out there. And then, and it's interesting to hear other people's opinions and thoughts and, you learn so much. You go, oh, I didn't know that. Or is that true? Are they really right? Then you go look for that too, you know.
Well, and
finding something trustworthy too is kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, finding like what is really happening. But
I'm kind of intrigued because you said that Fox and all the news during the campaign was just overwhelming. There was just tons of it. And that's why you stopped listening. But now it looks like you're absorbing tons of content. So
I am, but
I kind of want to pinpoint the difference.
The difference is that now I'm absorbing information from different venues. And so I feel like I'm getting multifaceted, you know, like opinions and ideas about a subject versus a flat line of...
Right. So like this candle, right? So if like this candle sitting here in front of us for you guys out there on YouTube land, like Banks's perspective of this candle is completely 180 degrees than mine, right? And obviously yours is different. So when you start saying, hey, if this is a piece of news and we're all looking at it, you're curating from different observation points, right? Like and principles and everything else, human experiences. I think it's something completely different. And I think we kind of gloss over something there, you know, in terms of just understanding even how your social media works, right? Like your social media is a curation for you, right? So if you're interested in certain things, groups, whatever it is, those things obviously through algorithms and everything else are this, you know, in basically while you're sleeping and while you're away, things are curating in a queue for you to digest, which I think is most people don't even think about to this day, right? Like it's especially I think in your generation. And I don't ever mean to like, you know, sit there and, you know, I don't know. I'm not trying to. What's the word I'm looking for? Patronize anybody?
No.
Yeah, I actually thought you were being quite empathetic.
And
kind of acknowledging that they have a harder time changing their habits.
Yeah.
And adapting to this new future. I thought you were going to say something like, "Well, they had it so well, and they were so apathetic, and look at the world they've left us."
No, and that's what I try to get at with a lot of, you know, like. I bring them up all the time because I think I'm going to start trying to engage at this level, but the government indoctrination, the public, you know, schooling, you know, that's out there. I think that it's done exactly what it's been meant to do. I think that, you know, most of us never question, you know, the patriotism, the scheduling of, you know, something else, the lack of association rights and all that kind of stuff. Like we don't even think about it. It's crazy, but how it has molded, you know, at least 2.5, almost 3 generations of Americans, you know, like probably that and then some. I mean, to try to break out of that and then receive the irony out there from even people who you would consider yourself politically aligned with. Right? It's not this, oh, Kelly, you know, like why are you saying the things that you're doing? Why are you feeling the way that you're doing? Why can't you just, you know, be a good little Republican and, you know, just vote the party line? It's not that.
No.
It's not. We want to know. It's, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Right.
You're an idiot. You're small-minded. You hate Trump. You've gone and caught, you know, Trump derangement syndrome, or you can't stand Republicans, or the Republicans are better than the Democrats. Like all these things that you always hear, and you know, I'm sure. I mean, I see it. I know you've got to see it from local to state, all the way up to the federal level. So, you know, my question is. You know, as I guess the GFRW and your role as, you know, the Republican women's president here at Forsyth County, those are coming to an end.
Yeah. So I had a lot on my plate. In the last couple of years, in a positive way too, with family and I have, you know, my grandkids. I am fortunate enough to have them live very close by, and
you spend a ton of time with them. I always see pictures. A lot of time,
but I have so much fun because, like, why else are we here? You know, we've had kids, and now I have my grandkids. Like that, you know. I mean, I just want to have the best relationship I can with them and enjoy it, because there's going to come a time where they're going, we're not going to grandma's house,
right? Yeah.
But you know, it's fun. So and I feel like it helps my daughters and their, you know, it helps their families by me, you know, helping them out. But so I had a lot of things come up, and I had to kind of make a decision. I had to learn to say no.
Yeah.
Kind of late in life learning to say no to things. And so because I'm one of those like, oh yeah, just throw me in the fire.
I'm in it. Let's go.
I'll jump right out of that pan into the fire, no problem. And so, my involvement with Civitan had grown. I got involved at the same time as I did Republican Women, so it kind of had these two parallel things. And Civitan is a civic. We raise money for and we do locally and internationally. Actually, it's an international organization out of Birmingham and
Birmingham, Alabama.
That's where Civitan International's headquarters are. And we are a true service organization. Like, we are a hands-on service organization. So we go and we do pizza parties for the Special Olympic athletes, and we do one in Halloween, a Christmas, and a Valentine's. We had 400 kids at the last one.
Yeah.
The school buses bring them over. We do that. We raise money and try to help in the community in other areas, with domestic violence and homeless and, wherever the need is. Like, the Swiss cheese is here. We fill in the holes where we can.
Yeah.
So, and it's one of those things, even on my most stressful day with Civitan, it's better than
anything with the party, huh?
To do, because I put my head on my pillow at night and I'm like, we did something good. We helped somebody. This is positive. And I started realizing, like, Civitan made me happy, and doing the Republican Women stuff made me like stressed.
Walking on pins and needles around people for being who you want to be.
Especially being in a leadership position, you feel like people are kind of tugging at you to get you to, they want to talk at or speak at the meeting. So I had strict rules. I'm like, I have 2 speakers per meeting. You need to call me to set it up. I'm not tracking you down, if it's that important to you. So I kind of had some standards there with, doing that. And it got a little stressful during campaign time. You were around when all that was.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, it was, and so, and then you have people that, I don't want to say use you, but.
They do?
They do. I mean, and I don't think they do it intentionally, but they're like, oh, we'll call Kelli, we'll get this done or whatever. And
I think some people do
and
it
then all of a
intentionally.
sudden, crickets, like once everything's over, it's like, oh, where'd they go?
Yeah.
So.
No, I trust me. There are definitely people who use you, and there are people that will get whatever they can. And I agree that sometimes it is, they can't help themselves. It's, parents didn't raise them any better. But at the same time, they make life choices for themselves too. They're individuals. But, so when you look at the current GOP, when you look at the current Republican Party, it is shrinking. Right. I mean, the Republicans, the Democrats, they're both parties that are losing members, at a pretty good rate right now. Yeah. Pretty steady rate. They're becoming smaller. I contend that's a good thing. As I'm not really a party person. And yourself, I mean, when you look at this, what is driving you, do you think, away from the Republican Party, and if that's a fair statement?
Well, I mean, I'm still going to vote Republican. I know I will. I mean,
straight ticket?
Well, I don't know if I'll go straight ticket, but I might skip some. I mean, sometimes I'll intentionally not vote for someone to show, like, you can go and look at those numbers, and I'm a numbers person, even though I'm horrible at math, but I love looking at, like, 4,000 people voted, but oh, wait a minute, 3,999 voted for me. So somebody didn't vote for me that voted straight ticket. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can send a message, when they see that. But I mean, and I say that because most likely that's who's going to be the most closely aligned.
Right.
Come on, Banks, give me a new word. You're always making up good words. Come on.
If you put me on the spot, it doesn't work whatsoever.
No,
most is going to be closely aligned with my beliefs. Usually, is going to be the Republican, and honestly, I feel like sometimes we're picking from the lesser of two evils, or
very often.
And then I can't say, and then I'm not going to be one of those that goes, oh, I'm not going to vote, because I am going to exercise my right to vote. Even if I go in there and only vote for one person out of the 13 on there, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to vote, and my record's going to show that I voted.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I rarely vote for people, first and foremost, that I don't know. It was one of the greatest and most freeing actions I ever took when I said, no, like I'm done. I'm done voting for, people, even if they are quote unquote part of my party. And it was one of the, you walk out of there, you're like, damn right. You know what? That guy didn't earn my vote. I'm not giving it to him, guy or gal, whatever. But like that was one of those moments in my life where I was like, this feels really good to do.
So I've got an interesting question for both of you guys. I'll start with the first question for both of you, and then I'll go to another one. The first one is less fun. So if you have in the past voted more on the lesser of two evils, or just like had a hard time coming to a decision of whether this was an appropriate maybe compromise or so forth, what is an election where you regret the person you voted for the most?
Ladies first.
Shane wants more time to think.
No, I've got mine.
That's kind of a hard one. That's I don't know if I've ever had a regret, because I feel like when I went in to make my decisions at that time, I was confident in what because I would research mine and I'd have my list and I'd go in and, I made sure I knew right down to the insurance, the ones they say, the ones down at the bottom of the ticket, sometimes people don't make it all the way down there, but I would research. So I always felt confident at the time, but you're talking about post, like once I did it, then you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. With all the information you have today.
If I look back,
That's a loaded.
I'll tell you right now, mine's George W. Bush. Second time around, I voted for him the first time around.
I think that's when I didn't vote. I think that's when my as my daughter said, we went and voted Lesbertarian.
Lesbertarian. Who was running that year?
Was it? I think we voted for. We voted for.
We had
Perot.
It was 2000.
That's independent. So
that
would
he was
have
independent
been in 1998.
Okay.
I think, right?
But that was about the time.
2000? Is that when George Bush took over?
2000, I mean.
Yeah, so 2001, George Bush takes office.
Yeah.
We go to war. Yeah, so I definitely, because I voted for him the second time around too when I was over there. That was 2004-ish, I think, and it was him and Kerry, and I was just like, God Almighty.
Man, at that point, it's like Stockholm syndrome.
Well, and I was stuck, right? I was stuck in this weird world.
I'm nicely teasing you.
And this was right after the Najaf. So if you guys haven't heard that story, like this is right after Najaf. I mean, we had a George Bush and Cheney bumper sticker on our, like on the shield on our up armored mounted 50 cal in the Marine Corps.
Really?
Oh, dude, yeah. Yeah, we were very political. I mean, and that's the thing is,
was that encouraged or just normal?
No, it was actually one of those things that later on we ended up having to take off because Tony Haslam, who was our commanding officer, the colonel in charge of the Marine Expeditionary Unit we were with, he's like, you guys need to take that off there.
Oh, wow.
To appear neutral, or because he had a beef with them specifically?
We don't know. I was a lowly.
You just did as you were told.
Yeah, I was
you
a
were in the
lowly
Marines.
little corporal and sergeant, and no, I mean, hey, colonel says something, I'm going to make that happen just because,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't want to be court-martialed, but yeah, absolutely. That guy got us into something that we're still there today. I mean, God's sakes, we got tons of troops over in Iraq amassing on the Syrian border again, and you're sitting there like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, so that war that he kicked off, that Barack Obama ramped up, and now, you've got this weird thing with Trump where, we're still there.
Yeah.
We're still not
So
gone.
speaking of that, though,
Sure.
it kind of sparked a memory for me. And this is before I was really questioning things. I was still, as you say, wrapped in the flag. And I am still wrapped in the flag because I feel like the flag represents what our country should be and the potential that it has. And that, I feel like it's a reminder. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Everybody
No,
has,
and that's
everybody
okay.
has their own definition
Yeah.
and how you see things.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand if you think the flag, and I don't think it's necessarily false either, if you think the flag represents the principles we care about,
Right.
then the flag would mean a lot.
Right.
And the thing is I can see it in different contexts. That's so, and what's that old saying? Being able to see something from two different perspectives or hold two different thoughts in your mind at the same time.
It's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. So to like for me, there's a range of emotions, and I know I'm a little snarky, and I talk about the magical sky cloth, and I talk about it in that realm because of the statism that pushes a lot of the adherence through indoctrination at schools and things like that.
The government, yeah.
I also I also see things where people in Hong Kong are talking about live free or die, and they're waving the American flag and singing the national anthem, and for me that represents more of the idea of what America is than anything. And then I also see it from all these countries that we're in. I see it from their perspective, and I see what we are in terms of a out of control monstrosity of an empire that has invaded entire regions of the world and, killed, disrupted, starved, created chaos on such a scale that we can't even imagine here in the United States. And so when I see, that going on, there's a part of me that just vehemently is repulsed by the standard, which is the flag, and I don't want to be associated with it, right? Like, if there's anything I'd say to those people, it's, God, guys, I'm sorry that we have lost control of our government, and no repentance is ever going to make this okay. Like that's the thing, is being able to have that cognitive dissonance to say, hey, listen, I understand it in this fashion, I understand it in this, and and I get it. Right now, one of the closest things to me is obviously our foreign policy and the travesty that's become, because it's hurting people, it's killing people. And
no, I mean, our flag, like in a very real sense, probably represents something that people would fear if they saw it in Afghanistan.
Damn right.
Fear not because they hate America, fear because they love their lives.
Yeah.
Or don't want to die at the very least.
Let's just not die.
Yeah.
I've actually grown very fond of when governments do bad things. I feel like it's been a new thing in the last maybe 10 years. People go out and say something like, we don't represent our government doesn't represent us. It's happened recently. With bombings and so forth. I know America, but there's been a few other countries, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, who have said, where people have had protests and made statements of, hey, our government doesn't represent what we're
I've seen things out of Russia like that. You don't see much out of China because obviously not much gets out of China. But I mean, Hong Kong. There are certain places within. I think like the Netherlands. You just saw this big revolt with the farmers and tractors and things like that. You've seen people from the UK especially. Oftentimes wherever we are, so are they. So are the Aussies and things like that. And so it's kind of, I think it's a lot of these same countries that we're quote unquote aligned with out there, that it's the same people going, listen guys, we've all lost control of our government. Like, we got to get this stuff together here.
It's a cool thing to repeat, actually. I've said before on the podcast that one of my sisters, she came to this realization. She was all happy about it. She was like, I know the problem. You don't think you're part of the government. Like, the government represents you. And so she went through this whole process. I'm not like, it was very sweet.
This is your younger sister?
No, this is my middle sister.
Okay.
Or my oldest sister. I think it's Sophie, who's my oldest sister. And she was like, that's why you hate all the things the government does, but you've got to realize that it's you. And she went through the process of trying to explain why it is me, and I just didn't agree in the end. And she was kind of sad. She was like, I'm really sad you don't see it that way, because she works for the government in France, and she's proud of.
She's inside that fishbowl.
She's grateful for the force that pays her salary.
She's proud of the things, and I think it she's a very smart person. And when it dawned on her that this was the reason that I hated all the stuff the government does, she was really excited at first of like, oh, I found the problem. We can fix this. So it must be something that's very foreign from the mainstream idea of politics and government and how things works. Because I mean, she works in that industry. If it wasn't foreign, she would have thought of that before. So I think it's something we need to repeat. The people not equal the government.
Right.
We need to make a new bumper
by and for is
even though it's supposed to, even though technically
of by and for, right?
They should represent us, and they're not. That's kind of the whole point of what we're talking about here, right? I mean, we vote people in. Idea. They say what they're going to do. Oh, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to cut taxes, and we're going to cut back on this, and oh, great, awesome, I'll vote for you. Okay, vote for you. I get it. They're watching, and these voting records, abysmal, and.
Say it again.
Abysmal.
It's
awful. And you're thinking, why are you voting that? Well, because, I had to do that because
got to be effective.
They tacked in this, they added in this, and if I voted for this, then this is going to happen. So I'm like, why can't they just simplify things? And a bill is a bill, and it's one topic, and that's it. And we keep tying things onto it and adding this on and making it, 400 pages long, and then saying, oh, you read that bill? Because I'm going to say no on that, because
I think
know
you're
how long
being
it
way
takes
too
me.
Nice. I think you're being way too nice.
Coming from Banks Wise.
I'm sorry, but that just aggravates me to no end. And y'all were talking about the other day about how I'd rather somebody just vote no, instead, if they haven't read the bill and they don't know what's in it, then don't vote for it if you really don't know. But then none of them would be able to vote because none of them read the bills, I don't think.
They would just vote no.
The reason I say you're being too nice is because it kind of sounds like, if I didn't know better, like you're saying that this whole conversation is happening, when for the most part, one politician here and there, but for the most part, these conversations aren't happening. They're not acknowledging that they're not reading the bill. They're not acknowledging that they voted for something bad because they had to make a compromise in this fashion. They're not acknowledging the vast majority of what goes on.
Yeah, you've got
they're
to
saying things like, well, I voted for the Patriot Act, and I'm a proud American who loves children, puppies, and flowers. And that is 97% of the conversation is fluff.
Right.
Well, and everybody out there is like, it's not my congressman. My congressman's great. He helped me with this. He helped me with this at my local level. He's a great guy.
Yeah, that's also fluff.
No, he's not. I mean, that's the problem is like, guys, your local congressman is spending generations that are not born yet into oblivion right now. He's voting to make sure that the military industrial complex continues to do what the military industrial complex does. There is no accountability. There is absolutely no justice at all. And that's your congressman. I guarantee you, unless he's one of the 5 people out of the 435 members of Congress, right? 435, I got that number right. There's 5 with an A.
And that's just grading with a curve.
And that's
if you actually go with like correct standards.
Yeah.
It's
5.
5, I know.
That's
it. I mean, I was sharing that. I went up to Helen with my best friend. We've been best friends since we were 12, and I met she and her husband up there. They're both retired school teachers, and they moved to South Carolina because of the taxes. And they jumped the line, and they live over in Seneca now. But met them up in there, and I was sharing with them the website where they can go and look at the records, the voting records. And I mean, Steve was he's like, what? Whoa! I mean, he was very, because I mean, I can have some pretty healthy debates with him, and he's more like my dad, watches even my husband, I guess you would say, they watch Fox. My husband doesn't watch Fox News anymore that much, but my dad's one of those, gets up in the morning coffee, Fox and
my
Friends,
dad too.
Looks at the cute girls, and then gets all his news, and then they'll watch the stuff at night, not every night, but I feel like my dad's at an age where I'm like, I'm not going to tell him what to do. Like he's done, like he's in his way and he's got it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have these debates. So I'm like, Steve, you can't just because they're a Republican doesn't mean that they're right. And I was like, I was so proud of myself because I was like, wait a minute. I mean, and he goes, well, I know that. And we talked about the lesser of two evils, and we talked about not voting or voting. And I mean, we had a couple of debates about it. But when I showed him, I said, well, you can at least go in there educated and know what they're voting on. So you can look up each thing that they voted for, and you can see where your congressman in South Carolina. And I was telling him about Stuart Jones in South Carolina, and I thought he was living in his district, but it's one over. I said, but listen, he's somebody that in your state that you need to follow and keep up with, and you need to get on Facebook and follow him, and you promote him because he may not be your representative. They have huge, like
very rural.
Yeah, but huge areas in their districts, whatever. Because we have so many counties here in Georgia.
Well, we have a really dense population in Metro.
Right.
So yeah.
So anyway, so I told him about that. So I was like, okay, so
that's a good way to get people who are Republicans and not the worst of the Republicans.
Right.
I don't mean to talk badly about your friend.
No.
Is to give them an example of somebody who is in leadership and they tend to have a personality that respects titles and so forth more.
Yep.
That is like the right guy. Stuart definitely.
Yeah. So I told him, I said,
100% endorsement.
Go see what he votes for, and then it'll. I guarantee you will agree with him.
Yeah.
I said, because I know them. I know my friends, and I know how their hearts are and where they are, and that we had the other debate was the pro-life thing. Like that's been huge. That I've
like anti-death penalty.
Yes, I've struggled with that since y'all brought that up, and I literally like for a week I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, oh yeah, pro-life, and then but yeah, go ahead and stick him in the chair and kill him. I'm like, oh, that's not pro-life. Wait a minute.
No.
So it's so contradictory, but you just grow up with it. Like, you got to get rid of the vermin, so to speak.
Well, it's fire and brimstone down here too. I mean,
Right.
there is this, this culture here in the South that is very much, hey, listen, kind of it's Old Testament stuff, like eye for an eye kind of stuff, and let's eliminate the problem here, and let's save the kids. Like, that's not the argument. Like, it's.
I think it's even a very human thing, because it's something like 75 to 80% of
fear.
Americans, meaning this is Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's very easy to put down a minority. And luckily, we live in a world where the most horrible people in the world are a very, very, very small minority. And so the majority, it gets exponentially easier to outcast them and not think about their feelings and what morality towards them looks like and so forth, and just say,
You brought up the website earlier. I want to make sure, like, if we've got new listeners out there, the website she's talking about is the New American. It's the Freedom Index. What they do over there is they grade people on a constitutional metric, right? I know the Constitution isn't perfect, but hell, let's be honest. Like, if we were actually exercising a constitutional government, well, I have an idea, but it's an opinion like everything else. But let's just say, you get to constitutional government, you can still go further, obviously, right? If we see, hey, listen, less government's better, it's always better. Decentralization is always better. A government of 3 million people is what the Constitution was. And that didn't work. It can't be. It's not working now, and we need to try to find something new. However, it's a step in the right direction, right? Like, all those things, and you have something in terms of legality, right? Instead of this ambiguous empire that we live under now, it's just like, hey, listen, this is where we need to get to, and then we need to push even further. But the New American Freedom Index out there is a great place to see. Like I said, spoiler alert, there's 5 on there with an A. And I think I could probably name, like, Mike Lee ran from the Senate, and then you've got Amash Massey, and who's the other guy? I think he's out of, like, Arizona or something like that, and I cannot remember his name. He's a rep. But
literally a handful.
5.
I mean,
5 dudes out of all of them. It's crazy. Well, I guess that's 545 members of Congress.
So about 1%.
It's crazy.
No, 535, right? Because you have 435 plus the 100.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, you have...
Well, he says plus the Supreme Court.
545,
okay.
plus the Supreme Court
okay.
and the president.
Got it, okay.
At any rate...
Vice president doesn't count, Shane?
He's the leader of the Senate. And he used to be elected too, but not now, because we bastardized the Constitution so bad. I get into... So right now, I mean, in terms of Georgia, we've seen a whole bunch going on. I've obviously been very vocal about what's going on with the Ralston thing here in Georgia. If you don't want to talk about this, you can stop me now. But
oh no, I'm okay with it.
So I even got into it with our local Republican chair, through text message. Hey man, are you going to come out and issue a statement? Are we going to hear anything from you? I haven't heard anything out of, Sherry Gilligan. I'll definitely give her some credit there. There are some things that I vehemently am very disappointed with Sherry in terms of especially constitutional carry and things like that. But she has come out and weighed in and said, hey, this guy's got to go. However, Patrick Bell over there at the Forsyth County, you don't have to talk about it. I'm definitely going to bring it up. But I said, hey, man, are you going to come out as the Forsyth County GOP and say something about this? Basically got, and I'm summarizing, but basically, no, the Republican Party's fine. We don't need to do anything. We need to vote Republican, blah, 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 blah. And it's just a dude who's carrying water now for a private corporate club. And, like, I'll tell you right now, like, that was kind of where he came to me after the whole election with Rob as well, and said, hey, you're going to get behind Rob. And I was like, I didn't just run a damn race against this guy to now cheerlead for him. Yeah. Like, this guy is...
But that's how politics works.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, Beto just dropped out of the presidential race, and his first statement was, hey, I'll help whoever is the ultimate nominee.
It's not working.
Party.
That's the problem.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So as in Patrick's defense, when he takes on this position as that... I mean, it basically says you are to support and promote the Republican Party. I mean, that's what you do as a GOP chair, and it goes all the way up the chain, all the way up to the RNC.
But it says party, right? Like, and that's what I don't understand, right? It's like, is the party principle or is the party people? Because it's totally different.
The party is the same thing as the government. It's a non-entity that people.
It's a private corporate club.
No, yeah, but it's a non-entity in that it doesn't have like a heart and soul and mind and so forth.
It doesn't have principles that it lays out every year?
No, it does not.
Don't they adopt a
in the end, that doesn't mean anything.
Are you talking about the platform?
It doesn't.
Are you referring to the platform
Yeah, sure.
and then all the resolutions that they do at the
Yeah.
Or they try
again,
to do.
don't even. I mean, God, then we could do a whole hour on
we got at least 45 minutes left. So let's.
Well, I mean, but that's what I'm saying is that's part of my frustration with being involved with involved when I mean like right there is, you know, basically if you're in leadership with a Republican organization and the Republican women we are a club. We're not connected to the GOP or RNC, but we're the education arm. That's how we started, you know, because women were just good for knocking on doors and selling Tupperware and that kind of thing. So Mary Kay, whatever. And so, you know, so it's like, oh, well, let's go knock on doors and educate people. Sure. So, but you're expected to basically just defend, even no matter what. Doesn't matter who they are or what they're doing. Oh, they're Republican. You can't talk about them. You can't turn away from them. You can't do. And it's very frustrating. I'm like, wait a minute.
What does it say about us?
Well, that's my point. Is I feel like, you know, what was the movie Good Neighbor Sam, where everybody gets on the elevator? Y'all probably know this was way back in the day, but basically all the sheep get on the, you know, the sheep get on the thing and the sheep follow and go to work, you know, the sheeple. I mean, it's basically like that's what you're doing. You're just like, oh, well, I'm just going to do because everybody else is doing this.
I'm a mouthpiece for, and then what you get
people in there, and then this thing with Ralston, you know, everybody, they feel, oh, well, you know, he's been in there for so long. Well, yeah, that's a problem too, because we need some term limits. Well, but anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
You look at Mayor Gravett here in Forsyth County, or in Cumming, right? This guy had been mayor until 45
years or something.
Yeah, since Nixon was in office. And you're sitting there going, geez, Pete, God. I mean, like that's when you start to realize like the systematic rot of what this bastardized republic has become.
Well, that's how centralized power structures work.
Always has to.
They can centralize more power because they have more power to begin with. Mm-hmm. That's how it's set up. We acknowledge that the system that we like, I'm using air quotes, is set up that way. It's like, oh, the best system to have is people at the top who make decisions for people at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Like that's not how it's supposed to work.
Automatic government.
Like that's going to over time stay that way. Like you started with a flawed principle. It's like it's not going to change if your foundation is a flawed principle.
Right.
But I can even come to the defense of Patrick Bell a little bit, which it might surprise Shane because we had a little bit of trouble there during the campaign.
Oh, a little.
And debate
not so
rules.
Much. Patrick Bell's not quite as bad as who's
fixed.
The Gwinnett guy that
Mike Siegel.
Mike Siegel. Mike, if this ever hits one of your friends' ears or somebody else's ears, I still have all of that video that I don't know. Maybe I'll release someday of him playing around with the debate schedule and all that fun stuff.
But in defense of Patrick, while if I was the chair, I'd say whatever I want and so forth, and really it's a blank canvas and you can do whatever you want. There are some rules, but there's not a lot of rules. But even some place where your chair doesn't want to do things and thinks that the chairs are supposed to be a placeholder and look nice and like wave, like
have meetings,
like an ugly, like
schedule some
Miss
things.
America or something.
Right.
The people in the party can do whatever they want, and you kind of want that support. So if there's nobody, if everybody there is also just playing the same role, then just nothing's going to happen.
I just can't stand the idea of like, no, we have to support them no matter what. That's the problem I have.
Right. And so, and I tend to be that person that, when we got down to the Cagle and Kemp, they were the last two, and I was being I was being wined and dined, so to speak, to vote for Cagle. You need to vote for. I was like, I will not. I'm not voting for.
Me either.
You're not gonna get my support.
Neither one of them, honestly.
Yeah, well, either one. But again, lesser two evils. But I knew it wasn't going to be Cagle. I'm not a Cagle fan, and so haven't been for a while. And so, and the amount of pressure that was, for me to come out and say, oh, I'm supporting Cagle in this, I was like, not doing it.
Eventually, people will just give up on you.
Well, which
is good.
Yeah, but I was like, no, I'm sticking to my, and they come up with, I don't know. It was very interesting to watch because it was so important. And then I see those same exact people as soon as Cagle loses, and I mean loses. All of a sudden, now their Facebook page is Kemp. And I'm like, wow, you were just sitting there like bashing him, bad-mouthing him to me. I don't get it. This is not college football, okay? It's not like, oh, go Jackets, go Dogs, which just happens to be today. But, this is life. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives with the decisions that they're making down at the Gold Dome and up in D.C. They, like you said, they are making and voting on things that are going to affect generations to come. And why are we increasing more and more laws and rules? And I don't understand. I feel like they should be eliminating some of that and simplifying. And it just seems to get more and more complicated and more involved. And then when you see the growth of the government and the overreach, and don't even get me started on Fed Ed and all that. Oh.
Well, you also hit on a point there, in terms of what are we leaving for the future, right? It's also what example are we setting, right? It's I always look at it as a dad because I'm very close to that, right? So if I'm going to sit there and tell my kids, you got to support this guy. You got to support him because he's got an R next to his name. You got to support, like, no matter what these guys do, they're still better than these evil bastards over here, right? Like, that's not a good thing. Like, you can't, if your child was doing something wrong, what are you going to do? You're going to reprimand them, right? Why does that change from the time, you're a kid to an adult? Do you have special, can you have like a get out of free jail card? Do you have an immoral card? Do you have, at what point do you magically transcend principle and get into this
you don't.
weird world of like politics?
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of people pretending that something that's happening isn't happening.
Right. Or that it's right. They justify it away.
But how do you?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Of all the people who do that, so we're weird, right?
We're outliers.
We're outliers. We don't take ourselves into the statistics. But of the people who play the game, who badmouth Kemp for months and say he's an evil person, and then he wins the nomination, and then they've got like Kemp banners on Facebook.
Kemp, let me get my picture up there with him.
So for all those people, what do you think is the percentage of people who are aware that this is like weird and doesn't make sense? Like the equation, and the people who are honestly not aware that this is abnormal in a bad sense.
Right. So you mean of the people that are involved or of everybody? Because I feel like there is just about 10% of people that are actually involved and pay attention to.
You think it's that high?
Well, I'm saying at the most. I'm going to be nice about it. Okay.
Of the people involved, and then afterwards, I do think we should talk about the difference of the people involved and the people not involved. But of the people involved, so the people who actually it means something to change their banner from Cagle to Kemp or from Rand to Trump or whatever weird decision they're making.
Go state.
I don't know. I feel like there's, and I don't know, maybe there's more people that I'm a little more vocal at times. I mean, I've had to learn to reel it in sometimes, but I feel like for a long time I would question in my head, like, well, wait a minute, why are they doing that? Or why is he doing that? Or why is she doing that? And I never said anything out loud because, well, they're Republicans, so they must be right. Like, I just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah.
And until, again, got older, more experienced, started, wait a minute, I can question this, I can question that. And, this is why we have primaries and why we have different people within the Republican Party running. But I do feel like there's more people that maybe internally question, but they don't have the wherewithal to vocalize it or question it or try to stand up against it because they see what the backlash, it's so cliquey. It's literally like, fraternity, sorority. It's like, oh, she doesn't like so-and-so. So,
yeah.
So that's where I have a problem. It's like, guys, this is like a business. Like if you get hired by a company and you work for that company and you make friends while you're there, that you in your cubicle or out in the field or whatever it is that you do, but then you get fired or somebody else gets fired for not towing the line, not doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's business, right? So that person, you get fired and
well, if you're not performing.
Right, you're not performing, but the other people get to stay, and you know what? I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but
that's okay.
It's the same way. It's like I'm still going to be friends, even though I got fired. But I made friends with these people based on our personalities. Does that make sense? So I'm going to maintain a relationship, even if that person got fired or whatever. I'm gonna like, hey, you still want to meet in next month for trivia night or whatever. That doesn't mean that because you got fired, like, okay, well, you are not on our team. You're not in our club anymore.
Right.
So I feel like I'm more of a relationship person. Like I develop relationships with people because of, similar interest or whatever. I mean, I have several friends that are very, Democrats.
I was about to ask you that actually.
Oh no, I do. I mean, and
do you think that's common? Do you think a lot of people are?
No, I think that I've had people say to me, how can you even be around them? No. What do you mean?
Really?
She's an amazing person. Like I like her. Yeah, we don't agree on Second Amendment. We don't agree on a lot of things, but there are things we do agree on, and one of them is ending Fed Ed. So I find those common grounds, and and I've developed a relationship through that. So,
or I mean, you don't have to be friends. You don't have to even agree on anything in politics, or even talk about politics.
No, right.
My sisters disagree with me on.
Yeah.
Especially one on everything, I could make a list all day long, and everything we wouldn't agree.
And I feel like by, I want people to respect my opinion, so I'm going to respect their opinion. We are going to agree to disagree most of the time, but that's there's just things more important in life to me. I mean, relationships and getting things done in a positive way are more important to me than, oh, well, I can't talk to them because, oh, they're a Democrat or they're this or,
Well, and I think you sum that up really nicely. I often walk through the neighborhood, right? And I find it refreshing to be in reality, right? Because people from behind these things will just sit there and be like, you MRFer, whatever it is, right?
Keyboard warriors, they can say whatever they want behind there.
But
I think that serves its purpose too, though. If these people are actually thinking that, and that's what they would do if they had enough confidence. Like if they were like 10 feet tall and Shane was like a foot tall, then they'd probably feel the same confidence as if they were behind their keyboard.
I would just like to have. I would like people to talk to people from here. Like they talk to people in real life, right? Like, hey, this is a person you're talking to, and if you're not trying to understand, if you're just trying to, call names and you can't, agree to disagree on things, right? Like it's a weird thing. I was out here walking the other day and, bopping around whatever I was listening to at that time, probably some more Gato or something like that. But, these ladies are, one is a black female retired from the military. One is a white female, both probably boomers, and they are polar opposite in terms of their politics. So I'm bebopping down the road, and they said, "Hey, let's ask Shane." And so I took out an earbud and stopped and watched, and we start having this conversation. And obviously, it's a impeachment conversation, it's a Trump conversation, everything that's going on now, and obviously,
so they're on one side of each other, and then you're like on the outside.
The triangle.
And we had this really cool conversation, right? And we none of us agreed. It would, or I would agree with somebody on some point, and we would go back and forth. But we had this really cool dialogue, right? And we were smiling and laughing and having a good time. We all know each other outside of this anyway. And then I left the conversation. I had to keep walking, and I'm coming back down, and they start jabbing at me again. And I as I'm walking away saying bye or whatever, I hear one of the ladies say, "Hey, I'm running down here. You sure you don't need anything?" Right? Like, hey, they're like that.
That's impressive.
It illustrates the community, right? Like our ability to decentralize, help each other through charity, through just understanding who we are, and those problems at those ridiculous levels that are made up, even some state and local, outside of even this neighborhood. we don't drop being human beings with some principle and our ability to affect some positive or negative change, for that matter, in our little, where we live, our little bubbles. And man, that's what I yearn for. I yearn for people like that to take that outside of their community, out of their neighborhood, out of their respective social circles, and a lot of times it just stops.
Well, it's a really. I was thinking as you were talking, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this point about how it illustrates how reality really works, but I'd never thought about the contrast. So in the real world, like you were talking about, you usually gain something if you help somebody else, right?
Sure.
If you harm people, for the majority of the time, if you harm somebody, it's not going to gain you something. There's risk involved and loss involved and so forth. And the whole concept of the free market is, if you bring something that people like, you'll get more and more.
Sure.
And the more you're able to produce services and products that people like, the more wealth you can get. And that's how the real world works. Again, for the most part, there's thieves and so forth.
Sure.
But that's a minority. The people who do well the most, besides governments, are people who produce a product, even people we don't like, Apple, Facebook, whatever it is. And government and the structure of government is actually the complete opposite. Like, you gain because you beat people. You gain because you take money away from one person to give it to another person. You gain because you have more power than somebody else. Like, it is a complete opposite. And I understand why it's complicated for people, even though I think that if they took time to think about empathy and love and how politics is this weird thing out here. But I understand why it's complicated for people who are like born in this default world of politics. Like, they think it's normal because they haven't questioned it maybe and so forth, to understand how this part of life, which is really important, is so different from this other part of life. Like, well, no, it must be a zero-sum game. It must be where somebody has to lose for me to gain. It must be that we have to like fight against each other. Like, all the things that we would consider bad, stealing, taking, manipulating, and so forth, is how politics itself puts it in a good light, right? And it's something that I get frustrated with Trump people about. And I'm talking about Trump people who are kind of my friends who are Trump people, like half and half. They're liberty people, some of them who voted for Ron Paul before, but they're just really excited about Trump being, whatever, a badass and like not
a Twitter freak.
Well, he's just outside the system, right?
They get excited even though they don't agree on a few things, like foreign policy and the gun control he's put forth and so forth. They're like, but look at him, like he takes it to the lefts and he calls them names and so forth. And while that's amusing, like it makes me feel icky inside, because it's a normal person in real life who just calls people names and doubles down on it and doesn't relent and lies, because a lot of the Trump supporters justify lies. We've got a very good friend who lives in the area who justifies a lot of what he does and says, well, that's the tactic, right? That's the business tactic. You've got to play the 3D chess and you've got to
4D
and 4D whatever it is.
I'm kidding, but
I think he's just playing with two of the kings and like back and forth. And they even justify being lied to and being like, well, he's at such a different level. Like, they're excited by all the things that in a normal like world we would think are ugly, calling people names and lying and being like a bully,
kind of a Jerry Springer culture.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, you look at some of the talk show that came up, I mean, I don't know, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, it was just, it got worse as time went on, right? And,
but even then in like a normal world, besides humor, and humor is a part, like Donald Trump was not elected to be like the comedian of America, right? And he's not doing comedy. He's ostensibly, most people would...
I don't know. Sometimes he does some pretty good comedy.
Most people, most of the time, would agree that he's in charge of like serious things, doing serious business. All these people who are excited about him acting in ways that I don't find appropriate would also think these things are appropriate in their personal lives. If their children bullied them and called them names to get what they wanted, if their boss lied to them and manipulated them and didn't tell them the truth, like all these things they would not like themselves, and yet they get excited about it because, and I understand to some degree, like I make fun of Nancy
my team's
Pelosi
winning,
and so forth.
Sure. It's tribe mentality.
Yeah.
So And trying to get back on track to where I think I was going with this.
No, it's my track that's going to win, not your track.
As we see this not going anywhere and it's getting worse and parties are starting to die, where does that take you? It's hard. It's hard at, I'm sure at any point to say, hey guys, I love you guys and peace and everything, but I got to go do something different.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm at. I will still be a member of the Republican Women, and I will attend meetings and be supportive of our new leadership that we have, which I think are great people, and I wish them the best with everything, and I'm there to support them. But my time I've done my couple years, and I'll be there, but it's not a priority. It's not going to be a priority in my life to do that. I'm focusing on my Civitan work. I'm focusing on my grandkids, and through that, if you read our Civitan Creed, it's about helping others and and supporting, being open to every religion and thought. It's a very open creed, and so, living by that and trying to help teach my grandkids, like you said, don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Some of this stuff is pretty basic rules, the golden rule. When you think, that's what I loved about your show. I was like, wow, you just simplified it all. Like right there, just don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.
You tell kids that all the time,
right? And then, but you think about it. Don't hurt people. Like, don't hurt their feelings. Don't take from them. Don't take. It's just common sense. To me, it's just common sense, and living by those few things, and then question. When somebody's running for an office, like, is this constitutional?
Is it in line with my principle?
Right. Do I agree with that?
Am I making concessions? Am I giving?
Am I just doing this because they live down the street from me and they're a Republican and I should vote for that, or I should support them?
Is it because they have power? Is it because they're popular? Is it because they're any of these things? Yes. And and that's the thing is, at some point you've got to have an honest conversation with yourself. I know I continue to have this conversation all the time, like. Am I doing this for the right reason? Am I doing the right thing when nobody's looking? And in the end, is this going to help me be a better person, right? I actually pulled up your mission statement and creed.
For Civitan?
Yeah. Can I go through it?
Oh, absolutely. Please. I love our creed. I think it's amazing.
The worldwide mission of Civitan International is to build good citizenship by providing a volunteer organization of clubs dedicated to serving individual and community needs with an emphasis on helping people with developmental disabilities. The creed: I am a Civitan, as old as life, as young as the rainbow, and as endless as time. My hands do the work of the world and reach out in service to others. My ears hear the cry of children and call throughout the world for peace, guidance, progress, and unity. My eyes search for others to join in the fellowship and service of Civitan. My mouth utters the call to daily duty and speaks prayers in every tongue. My mind teaches me respect for law and the flag of my country. My heart beats for every friend, bleeds for every injury to humanity, and throbs with joy at every triumph of truth. My soul knows no fear, but its own unworthiness. My hope is for a better world through Civitan. My motto: builders of good citizenship. My belief: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. My pledge: to practice the golden rule and to build upon it a better and nobler citizenship.
Pretty impressive, huh?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It really is. And that's the thing is, it's consensual.
It's 100 years old.
It's consensual. It is. It sounds like it's local and somewhat also broad-reaching as well.
No, we're an international club, so we've got clubs overseas and.
But just because because it's such a great idea, it's spread, right? Yeah. But it's also one of those things you have to do locally, right? That's kind of where you guys are centered around.
It's got some very basic fundamental principles, which if you take it seriously would make you like act like this in every part of your life.
Well, I mean, the part,
and that's kind of that's what it's about.
Yeah,
really.
Are we supporting people, like that do injury that, when it says, my heart bleeds basically for every injury to humanity? Are we supporting people that injure, different parts of humanity? Or, are we triumphant when we see some justice in the world and things like that? And I mean,
not consistently. Because apparently we don't care about people in Yemen.
No, and that's the thing, is that's what we get into with a lot of party stuff, and so
there's one interesting contradiction in there when they talk about laws and country. I understand why it's in there. It's pretty old, but they are, if they talk about the golden rule and they talk about there was one of
the respect for the law, the flag, and
there was we cherish every truth or something like that in there.
And throbs with joy at every triumph of truth.
Yeah. What they call the law, which I doubt they're referring to the natural law, would contradict with some of those.
Sure,
but it's not a big deal.
Right.
To be picky though.
I think out of all the lines, that one line is the only thing that I even gonna go, all right. But everything else in there, I go, wow, it's actually fairly liberty-minded stuff there.
Oh, it's completely
very much in line.
It's wonderful things.
Yeah.
It's very sappy. I like it.
And it's there's no politics. Like we do not bring in. We don't talk about Democrat or Republican at all. It just doesn't.
Well, and that's the thing
that's what's so nice about it is. We make a decision based on what is the need in the community, and we all pull together, and we all know who's sitting around the table some are Democrats, some are Republicans. We're working together. It's awesome. Just I got chill bumps, chills up and down my leg or whatever it was.
So out there in the national spotlight today, as it stands, what are some of the biggest things biggest subjects right now that you see as problematic? First problematic, and then I want to switch over to the positive, kind of end on positive stuff. But what are the biggest issues for you in this day and age?
Well, I'm going to go with education.
Okay.
Because I feel like that we should have never had Department of Education should have never ever come along. Like that was
what the
worst thing.
says.
I'm fist pumping over here, people.
And I'm very in line with you on the. I'm using air quotes now. I homeschooled my girls at the end of high school for different reasons.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they didn't have the support for that at the time when I did that. It was people were homeschooling,
sure.
and they'd have a program. They'd have support for locally. Up through middle school, but not high school yet. We'll have it in 4 years. Well, they'll be gone now then. So, I had gotten frustrated with school and education. I'm a former teacher, and so I feel like a lot of our problems that are going to continue to grow are because of the government schools, and these kids are being indoctrinated with information that is not accurate.
Well, it's not only not accurate, it's per state.
Right.
What is the worst information they're getting? Like top 3 things that you think is melting their minds the most in a bad way?
Well, I mean, just the environment, the socialist environment. You buy their school supplies and you send them in. And I used to label my kids. I mean, I had a little thing and I labeled every crayon, every pencil, every pen, because I was like, this is their stuff. And then you find out oh, no, don't label it. We throw it all in the crayon box so everybody has access to those crayons. Well, then next thing I know, you're getting another note. We need more crayons. And well, nobody's taking care of it. You know why? Because it's not theirs. They don't own it. It's not theirs to take care of. In our house, we were raised you take care of your crayons, you take care of your pencils, you take care of your bike. And then, maybe you'll end up with maybe you'll get Crayon markers next time, I mean,
you're right.
You got to earn that. And there's I don't know, the personal responsibility thing, I feel like is just out the window. You can blame it on everybody else. And
no, that's something we don't see as much.
Personal responsibility is a huge thing. My husband and I, we were by far not perfect parents at all. I mean, believe me, I sit there at night, wow, should have done that. Wow, should have done that. But at the time, you do the best you can. When you're in that moment, you do the best you can. But we always said we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And our goal is for you to be able to, if we drop dead or something happens to us, we want to know that you're able to survive and make a decision and, you know,
do your
make it in life.
Do your taxes.
Right.
Be industrious. Think for yourself. Be critical.
Right.
Yeah, there's all
make
these.
It without and without being dependent on a government entity, so to speak. So,
do you mean do your taxes or avoid your taxes as best you can? I didn't know if I heard correctly.
I think you hear all of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Taxes in general, understand why they exist, right? And the system that promotes those as well. Yeah. So no,
but Fed Ed, I feel like the education is a problem because.
Do you think it's a problem?
This is where we start. Well, children are our future.
Yeah.
So if the majority of the children, which they are, the majority of kids, I mean, my girls went to public school and my grandkids are going to public school because they're not in a situation.
There's roughly somewhere between
two. They both like to homeschool,
yeah.
but they're not in a position where they feel confident enough to do that or financially can afford to, pull one out of the, making money. And that's because everything's so expensive and all that.
Yeah, there's 2 to 3 million, right? Mm-hmm. So, and think about this too. I mean, obviously you have property taxes taken out. So, that's a couple $1,000 that would also go towards your ability to homeschool your own kids.
Yeah, if you could use that money where you wanted to.
Sure, yeah, to be able to actually apply it to your education. Mm-hmm. I talk about John Taylor Gatto on here all the time.
Love him.
If you're out there and you feel like this is one of the biggest problems, and I've definitely gravitated to it, I think that this is one of the biggest problems. So I've definitely I feel very akin to what you're talking about. This idea that you can send your children to the government and expect a country not to go tyrannical is a fairy tale, to say the very least. It's an absolute fairy tale. I think there's about 2 to 3 million, and I saw an article the other day actually talking about how people are just so fed up that the records number of homeschooling again in terms of what's outside of the pre-industrial revolution here in the United States is actually really, really ramping up. And
I'm torn about that because the fact that there's articles being written about it means that the Fed Ed and all the pushers of government indoctrination are hearing this. And since they're the ones in power right now, they're extra scared because they live in their own mind.
Well, think about it.
And they're going to come out with more rules or whatever to intimidate people from doing it.
They tried in Georgia. We did an episode about that. You and Meredith talked about it, how they were under the premise of protecting children. They were going to kind of put more regulations on, like, if a kid misses school for like 2 days in a row, somebody will go and check up on them and so forth. That worries me, and I would think that something like that would happen even in places in Georgia where there's populations of like 40% of the kids are homeschooled in Union County in Georgia. The people running for office, they still push all the we need money for buses and the children and we need an e-splosh and so forth. So I mean,
well, and that's the thing is a lot of them will demonize homeschoolers too, right? Because listen, for every kid you've got enrolled, that's money.
Oh yeah,
that's money.
Listen, that's butts in the seats is money equals money. So
that's
every
right.
time, and when they do that take roll in the morning. So I've told so many of my friends, they're like, oh, God, Kelly, you're so cynical. I'm like, no, I'm telling you the truth because what they do is they have their FTE, I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, there's a magic number. And if they don't have that magic number, they don't get that money from Georgia, and Georgia doesn't get it from the federal government. Yep. So it trickles down. So it's per child in the seat. And then they need to be there at least half a day.
Yeah.
And then they're counted as present. So they do not like when you come and check your child out at 10:45 to take them to a dental appointment because are you going to bring them back? You should bring them back.
Why would
I want to bring them back? We're going to go hang out and go shop.
Why do you hate school teachers so much?
So yeah.
No, and that's the point of like I say it sarcastically.
Yeah, but it's not it's the administration. It's the way it trickle down. And the administrators have the pressure from the state, and the state has the pressure from the federal government. So ultimately,
it's all money.
It's DC and money that are making our teachers miserable.
That we've allowed.
Well, it's DC, but it's not just DC. There are these same incentives that Georgia that would exist if the federal government died tomorrow.
Right.
We can only hope.
But a lot of things are attached to the grants that come down from the federal government, and they dangle this. It's the same thing with DOT and stuff like that.
The same problem would still exist though, and it's something. I just don't want people to forget that because we it would still exist, and then once it only existed at the state level, the state level would grow and control,
and your local level would grow.
Well, but I would rather it stay where because I feel like you could make more of an impact at
Sure.
your
Absolutely.
state level.
Yeah, we can reach out to Sherry. We can reach out to Mark.
Get rid of the federal, get rid of that department and let the states do what they feel they need to do.
It'd be much better, but it wouldn't be a solution.
Even then, you get to the point where it's got to be what it was before this country was founded, right? So when we talk about coercion and force, and this is obviously my opinion, is I always think coercion and force is always wrong. And so when you take anybody's right of association away and tell them, first and foremost, as parents, you have to do this with your child, and you also have to do this with your money, that's not freedom. That is like in this country, this is land of the free and home of the brave. When the first thing we do to a child with the government really is rip them away from their parents and throw them into a government indoctrination plan that you don't support because, I don't know, give me one of 5 million reasons I don't want to send my kids to public school. And here's the thing is, it's not usually the teachers. It's not the teachers. It's the admin. It's what is being crammed down their throats. It's the fact that we're wasting time. It's the conditioning. It is
it's the opportunity cost. It's the cost by itself. It's the fact that as we kind of came to light more clearly the other day, we're infringing on a child's right to associate with people he wants to associate with or not.
Right.
Like, why are you torturing your child? Like, we would be, as adults, if we were forced to be in places against our will.
I'd be in jail. Or dead.
Well,
or just very unhappy if you're unwilling to make those attempts at fixing the problem.
But
yeah, I mean, you were talking about that the other day. I do think it's a confining environment. I mean, they go to school. When the bell rings, you do the next thing, and you're only allowed to go to the bathroom for this and. What?
And you have to sit next to Johnny. And you don't like Johnny. And
Johnny
stinks maybe. But actually, that was a cool thing. Earlier, we were here before we started the podcast, and Shane's daughter, Sawyer, came in. And if I understood correctly, she didn't go to her last jiu-jitsu tournament or something.
Well, yeah, nobody did because they got sick. But
and you asked her why, and she was like, I just didn't want to. And you were like, okay.
Cool. Whatever.
And outside of school, there would still be some kind of a problem because some parents would say, like, you have to go to that. I was lucky enough not to have those kind of parents. I played, like, 10 different sports because I tried it for a year and then I was like, I don't like it anymore. But a lot of parents, and I think school is part of it.
Yeah.
The school works that way, so the parents kind of just emulate what happens at school, right? So yeah, you have to make friends, and you have to do the sports, and you have to do the extracurricular.
Fit in and be friends with the popular kids, and wear the right clothes.
I would imagine that a lot of parents would not say, "Oh, you just didn't want to go to jiu-jitsu." No, you're going to jiu-jitsu today. But why would kids on something that intrinsically doesn't matter? Like, it's not like a child, you need to eat this food so you can like live, or a child, you need to take this medicine so you can like not die. Again, these basic things. It's like,
so you're on the grid.
Why would you force your child to do something they don't want to do if they have the capacity to say, I want to or I don't want to?
Sure. And you look at what's afforded, and I say afforded, you look at the opportunity that kids have in this day and age with all the the information, they can touch it and see it and go after whatever they want to go after. John Gatto, he contends that about, it takes a person about 100 class hours, right? 100 hours worth of real study to pick up arithmetic and reading, period. After you pick up those two things,
you're pretty much on your own. I mean, you can take that and do it with.
And think about some of the greatest, most prolific writers in liberty type minds that ever were. They didn't go to a centralized school. They learned through practical application in doing in their spare time. They were turned to whatever they could get their hands on and whatever they wanted to study. That was a different thing. And you look at how everything is pushed, crammed into the government, especially at the federal level, the government indoctrination process now. We look at government and we go, all right, let's be lazy. Let's not worry about this ourselves. Let's have the government solve this for us, instead of saying, all right, we've got a community. We got some really industrious, smart people here who can do what they can with what they've got. So we're looking at scarcity of resources in terms of a premise to begin with, and now we have this. Multiply that across the country. How many people can we get working on the same problem and coming up with different answers to sit there and go, man, that's the best practice. That's the best practice. That's the best practice, which breeds what further best practices. And now, instead of this, less minds, you've got all these, I'll just say nodes, right? All these nodes that are coming up with answers to the same problem in different ways, which breeds competition, which creates more creative destruction, which gives us a better product. And in the end of the day, a better product is a better citizen. That, for me, is one of the biggest, easiest selling points in terms of get the government out of this one-size-fits-all. We're going to keep, reading this ridiculous textbook over here. We're going to get these new textbooks over here. No, golly, there's more information out there that doesn't need to be curated. That all you got to do is go out and let people search for it themselves.
I'd even argue that for the most part, you might not even need to teach your child how to do basic reading. Math might be a little different, but there are so many areas and analogies. I heard a really funny one the other day from some podcast. I think it was the Unregistered Podcast with Thaddeus Russell. And they were talking about social media and how back in the day, MySpace, these girls would have these MySpace pages all like customized with like music.
That's the way mine was.
Music and sound and so forth. Yeah. And if you really wanted to make it look cool, you had to learn like a little bit of coding, like HTML.
Yeah,
and so
I did.
Forth.
That was the only time I did it.
So these are like these teenage girls who don't know anything about coding, and because of the whatever they want to do in life, so they
20-year-old men, Banks.
They wanted to. Sorry,
I'm kidding.
I was never on MySpace, but whatever they wanted to do, in this case, express themselves, show their individuality, made them learn something. And you see this on YouTube all the time. You've got kids making slime. Well, to make slime, they have to learn about like chemistry to make, and then these YouTubers who have to learn how to code, these podcasters who have to learn how to make websites and encode video and so forth. This is talking about me and Shane. To do things in life, you have to learn other things. I hated reading. I didn't really read at all until I got into the Liberty Movement and read all the books on Mises Settle.
And
I wasn't a big reader.
I don't learn through reading. I learn through hearing.
So I've become better at auditory learning.
Yeah.
And now I'm addicted to Audible because I do my podcast and I listen to books. And my husband's like, you need to slow down on the Audible. Like,
I can't.
How many books? I mean, I used to be where I had to read it or read it, hear it, you know. And I've gotten better now. Fortunately, you do have the rewind option. I can rewind back. Go, whoa, what did I miss there? But I love it because I'm able to be driving down the road or doing laundry or whatever it is. I can listen to a book in a day. I mean, a 12-hour book I can knock out because I'm tooling around at grocery store or whatever, and I can still listen. And the learning. There's so many avenues for learning, for kids today and for teaching.
And you'll naturally find the ones you love.
And people are going to gravitate towards their interest.
Yeah.
And they should be able to do that. Well, they should be able to pick the book they want to read in the library, not based on their AR level. Or if they don't
want to read
their
the book.
Lexile or their AR level. Oh, that's not of your level. Like, you can't read that.
We might find that weird, but what if they don't want to read? So your husband says, well, you need to pick up the book because that's like the normal thing. And I understand. He's
saying it because he don't want me spending the money. It has nothing to do with that. It is all about the checkbook with him.
That's great. But,
he'll be the first to tell you.
What's to say that somebody who doesn't read is living a worse life? What if they only like to listen to the audio things? Or what if they only like to watch movies or only want to play sports? Like, why are we to dictate to other people
what if they're living
what enriches their lives?
What if they're living a life somebody else is going to write about? Right? Like that's that. There are certain people who observe other people and write memoirs. I mean, that is a whole industry to document. All right, what made this person special? What made them tick? And I'll tell you right now, a lot of those people don't read books, right? Like, I'm one of those people that I can't stand reading books. It puts me to sleep. If there's insomnia, if I need to fall asleep, all I need to do is crack a real book. I'm done.
See, I'm the exact opposite. My parents would take my books. Yeah, that was my punishment. They would take a book.
No, I didn't like reading, but I can't really learn that well with just Audible. No, I need to see the word.
I can learn that
and feeling it.
And then if there's a skill that needs to be done, you have to do it, right? You have to. All right, I need to see. And then I need to do it.
Or teach it. And if you teach it to somebody else, that's really the best way to learn something.
Learn
if
one.
You have to,
Show one, teach one.
Yeah. Because when you have to teach it to somebody else or explain it to someone else,
you have to know it.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh wait, I do understand this, because if I'm having to teach them, so I think that's I think that's cool to do with kids, having kids teach kids.
It's even cool if you don't like reading, but you need to do it sometimes to learn correctly. That is like these, and again, something being natural doesn't mean that it's good, but it's kind of a natural, what's the word I'm looking for?
Progression. I mean,
no. Give me 1 second. I'll think of this. It's a natural. When you feel good about
proclivity?
Something. No. When you feel good about something, you've done something hard and you feel good about it.
Elation. I mean, a natural
I'm sorry.
Triumph. I mean,
we all know what you're saying. So
accomplishment.
Right?
Okay.
If you've read something and you don't like reading, but it's for a purpose that you pursued on your own, that accomplishment, something hard that you don't like, will actually give value to your life.
Yes.
In a disproportionate way.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's almost good. We probably all have things that we don't like. I like reading, but I don't like doing paperwork. But when I do a bunch of paperwork to get something done, set up a business, whatever it is, I feel an extra accomplishment from doing something I didn't like.
Yeah.
Which is part of life. Like hard things are not necessarily bad. And, it's funny that life has this way of setting up things like, oh, it's easy for me to read, but it's not easy for somebody else to read. They'll get a bunch of accomplishment by being able to like scale the mountain they don't like.
Right.
Well,
and I'll get a bunch of accomplishment from doing paperwork.
Yeah.
Which they think is super easy.
Yes, you illustrate that. That is life, right? Like
it took me a while to illustrate
when I go down and I work in my shop or I do a home project or something like that. One of the things I do is I have to prep. I have to get all the tools. I have to do a good job, and then I have to do cleanup.
You have to plan it.
Really, like those other steps beside actually doing it are more important than actually doing it. Like if I've got everything that I need in one place where I can sit there and grab it and I've thought about it, hey, this is the way this is going to go. These are everything. This are all the tools that I have to get. These are staged now. I've got a prep order. I'm good. Work's done. Now, if I leave a mess, my wife's going to be mad at me, right? Like if I don't clean this thing up and I don't put everything back where it needs to go, and I'm also setting myself up for failure in the future because I don't know where my tools are, I don't know where my supplies are, things like that. Like those little ancillary things, you got to still knock those out of the park a lot of times, but that's not what I get out of education. Now, to kind of switch gears, because we're
how long?
We're 138 already.
Well, that's not that bad.
I kind of want to wrap with with positive, in terms of the world and trends and your own life. What are you super excited about right now? What are you really super excited to see that's happening?
Well, I do feel like that people are getting information and learning from all these different, the social media, the podcasts. There's, like I said, Audible. Like there's so much information out there that I feel people are finally realizing that, and then they're going and looking for it. Like I feel like that's a very positive thing that's happening. People are going and looking for their own information instead of just waiting for it to be dumped into their brain,
right?
From channel 2, 5, or 11, or or just whatever. So that part is, because for me, it's been kind of empowering, I guess you would say, by finding these things, and then I'll talk to my daughters like, Mom, you're listening to podcasts? I'm like, yeah, of course I am. Yeah. But it's. I feel like that people are becoming a little more flexible. And I say that because there's no way I could get my dad to listen to a podcast. He's just not going to go through. He emails and he texts, and he just started doing that. And so, that learning curve with the technology and everything that's out there. So I feel like there's a big kind of gap there.
You text him the YouTube channel here.
I was about to say you can text him
I'll
links to the podcast, and then he'll click.
Watch that. Yeah.
He won't know what it is exactly, but
yeah. But my point is, he doesn't know that it's out there, if that makes sense. Like if he knew, then he'd be, oh, okay, where do I get more information like that? Yeah. So that's what I think is cool about it. So I feel like that's a positive thing that's going on. Seeing my grandkids, and the things that they come up with and the ideas, and they're talking about things that I have no idea what they're talking about. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm going to get you to teach me how to play that game. Like, I want to learn. Like, I want to know what's going on with them. I don't want to end up being that person that's Oh, well, that's my grandma. They call me Gabby. That's Gabby. She doesn't know what's going on. I don't want to be that person. I want to be like, okay, teach me how to play.
Sure.
What's Minecraft? Tell me what is, show me how to do this, because it looks pretty cool. Because now the two older ones are now like, look at this house I built, and she has this whole glass ceilings and stuff, and I'm like, well, I want build me that house. So it's, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity out there, but I do feel like it's still important that the kids learn, basic respect for one another and personal responsibility. And then if they have those basic principles, then they're going to be able to be successful and not, and have a good life, in general. And so it really comes down to parents and it does.
And loving
it's not, and it's not the government's responsibility to make decisions about our children and where we're headed.
So do you think that's changing a little bit in our society?
Well, I think people are realizing that. Yeah. I think the government, the more that people realize, like you were saying, that the more people are homeschooling, and that the government's getting a little nervous and they're going to put more rules because that's money out of our pocket. But people got to rebel a little bit, So, but
some guys.
It is important. I mean, it's important that people understand, like, the government does not need to tell you what to do with your child.
Ever.
I mean, like vaccinations, all that kind of stuff. Like, this is my child. I am responsible for them. You're not going to tell me what I'm putting in my child's body or on my child's body, or, y'all just did the whole change. That was a great episode, by the way. But anyway, I'm hoping. I feel like people are waking up a little bit and realizing that the government is not the end all, know all, be it all. And I feel like before that was what you just trusted. You said, well, they say this, they say that. And I feel like now, like my daughters and their generation, the 20s, 30s, you guys are questioning, like, who's they and why what makes them right?
Right.
In some ways, as much as the technology will allow them to control things more, there's some things they just can't push back against that much. It's like
memes.
You hardly need to question when you've got Uber. It's like nobody talks. Even the people who would be the most sheepalist, is that a word? The most sheepalist people out there don't question
the
that.
Sheepiest?
Well, the sheepiest. You guys are funny. But even them, the sheepest. I'm sorry. Don't question that Uber is the best way to go, right? Yeah. It completely took apart a whole governmental system at multiple
peacefully
levels, peacefully, and we don't have to convince them that the best way to go is Uber because everybody agrees because it's that good, because it's that close to the bottom. We start out this podcast saying, like, there's a fundamental problem with when you start with the top being in control, it's always going to be the top, and there's nobody disagrees that this is better. I mean, besides a few people who think that. I mean,
unless you get into
there's a few crazy articles out there that apparently all the Uber drivers are rapists or something like that. But for the most part, even people who are sheep, even people who don't like technology, even like older people, young people, just are like, what? Yeah, I get my phone out that we all have because that also was just nobody questions that. So yeah.
Parting shots in terms of anything you want to say before we sign off here.
No, I mean,
You want to throw up the deuces and say, peace, I'm out. No.
So we're going to do the questions?
Yeah, we'll definitely do. Do you want to do the questions?
She wants to do the question.
Of course she wants to do the questions. All right, questions. Who is your favorite podcast?
Oh, the rebellion.
Who's your favorite podcast host?
Oh,
wow. Now we're getting technical. So funny.
I will take that as a non-answer. So you've been into podcasting. Seriously, who do you listen to?
I listen to Gary V.
All right, right on.
He's very energizing and
in your face,
and fits with my ADD because he's just like boom, 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 boom. He just knocks it out, and so I listen to him. I believe it or not, I listen to Nancy Grace.
I didn't know she had a podcast.
Okay, it just cracks me up because she talks about her kids, John David, and when she talks about them, but she's very passionate about solving crimes. You know,
I don't know
her boyfriend was Nancy Grace. She was on like CNN. You know, she was.
You know how long ago I stopped watching?
Oh yeah, that's true. Anyway, but
you didn't watch her during like the Casey Anthony stuff. Like even I would go on YouTube to watch that stuff because it was very entertaining.
Yeah, she's very entertaining, and but her boyfriend was murdered, and so she's very passionate about helping people find closure.
Okay.
And so forth, and she's actually helped a couple of crimes be solved too, not just But anyway, so I listened to her. But
favorite book?
Not all the time. Oh, Fahrenheit 451.
Really? That's a great book.
That book is freaky.
You seen the new movie?
No, I haven't.
It's okay.
Yeah, I figured you can't.
Why are the movies like 1984 movies sucks?
I don't know.
Fahrenheit 451
because they don't get the point. They don't understand it.
They don't do it enough justice.
They're supposed to make it like it's a normal. They don't need to be in like spacesuits and stuff. Like it's not. It should be.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, they try to make it like, oh, this is a science fiction, so we should make it look like it's science fiction, and we need to have, funky outfits and weird looking houses. They should just make it a normal neighborhood like this.
Yeah.
And have the firemen walk like it. But think about when he wrote that book.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like earbuds, like the little bug in your ear they talk about. I'm like, sorry, I have one of those that you can't tell it's in there. The wives that are like on their drugs, and I mean, how many housewives are on? I mean,
that's crazy.
I'm included. But I'm saying. They say, oh, they just, are taking these pills and not paying attention. Ha, ha, ha. And the big screens on the wall. And I'm like, wow, okay, we're here.
Yeah.
It is happening. And
great plan.
Yeah. But, and then the book burning. I don't know. I love the book because I just feel like there's so much to talk about in that book. Anyway.
What about favorite? You got a favorite founder of this nation or just a philosopher in general? I'm
a Thomas Jefferson fan. My mom was the Thomas Jefferson fan, and but she also was a fan of his creativity and things that he invented. And
pretty smart guy.
Yeah. So
last question: all the marbles, cats or dogs?
Dogs, but I'm not a fan of the one we have right now.
Sorry,
right? Leo. We have a Chihuahua.
What
That's not a dog. It's not even as big as a football.
Well, he's a 20-pound Chihuahua.
Really?
He's huge. Yeah.
It's a big Chihuahua.
But we had a Doberman before, and
they're good dogs.
We had a Yorkie, and so definitely dogs over cats. Sorry, again, my mom, influenced by my mom.
You guys want to hear something funny before we sign off?
Always.
Meredith and I were talking about actually getting an outdoor cat eventually, and we were talking about what we would name it.
Gonna call it Banks?
No, we were actually talking about like all of these villain names from like back in the day, and I was like, I think we should call him Voldemort. Just kind of like slinking around outside in the shadows.
Yeah.
At any rate, that's what I thought. But hey, no, Banks, anything before we start wrapping this thing up?
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I lost track of time and just enjoyed just like chatting.
Yeah. This is good.
We haven't had somebody in the show for a while, and Kelly always sends us the nicest messages on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Like every other episode, it feels
Shane
like
dropped
saying,
the F-bomb. Yeah. I know. I didn't do a great job of editing that. I've figured out how to do it now, so we're all good.
You needed it to stay there. But I listen, and I literally am talking back to y'all when you say things. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, oh, they're not hearing me.
Yeah.
But you guys do such a good job with the show where. I feel like I'm just hanging out with you when I'm listening in the car. So it makes me actually talk back to you, and I'm like, oh, I'll actually get to do it. So.
That's how you know you're ready.
Okay, so I actually have a question. Have you ever gotten frustrated with something we've said? Come on, guys.
Yeah. So a couple of times. I mean, okay. So my husband's a retired police officer. So when y'all are talking about the police and stuff, I'm like, okay, hold on. But I understand your point. I get your point.
Yeah.
And but coming from somebody that's lived that life and waited for my husband to get home and he works nights. I mean, it's
it's tough.
I mean, it's a different life, and again, it's government dictated. So if you don't toe the line, so they're told what to do. They are told, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. This is what we expect. So a lot of these guys that are out there, they're doing it because this is what they were, when they went through the academy, this is what they were trained to do. So
and
then it comes down
trained.
to the indoctrination. That's what I'm saying. It comes down to where is this coming from and who is making the decisions on that. So that's a whole nother thing.
I think that's really important to tell us because you already like us, so you have some like leniency with us, right? It's like, oh, they just said that, but I know they're good guys. So listen to them. So, but it is like finding that way to get people who are in that area or even more like more jittery to hear those kind of things and give it to them softly where they understand that we love people and so forth is really important and kind of hard.
But but the stories, I know stories of, the lady that you talked about that you had on the one of the first podcasts where they broke into her house with the marijuana and all that.
She lives just up there in
my
Delaware.
Gosh, like that just infuriated
happens
me.
all the time, every day.
And then I, after talking to my daughter's like, oh, Mom, so-and-so, she ended up in jail because she was at this apartment and there was pot in the apartment and she ends up arrested. And because she doesn't have any money or anything, she can't get a lawyer and a good lawyer. I'm saying, she got her whatever, but they weren't really fighting for her. And so she spent time in because of this.
They don't teach them about they don't train them about Nuremberg, and they ask way too much, right? Way too much in terms of enforcement, and a lot of times that's up to whoever's in charge of the department, right? It's like, you guys are going to go do this, right? We've got some intel. No matter where it's from, you guys are going to go do this, and
but even that person, there's so many laws that even if like their standard gets skewed in their mind, even if they like what they do good and what we, even liberty, like hardcore liberty, the government sucks people would be like, if a police chief said we're going to enforce half the laws, we'd be like, man, that guy is awesome,
better. And
that would still be a ton of laws that infringe people who have done absolutely no wrong to anybody.
Yep, I agree. No, but it's good to hear. So it's we try to make sure that we are coming at this from a very human standpoint, and we obviously think the same thing in terms of we're not asking anything that we wouldn't expect of ourselves as well.
Right.
So,
but it's very thought provoking. Things that you bring up, it does create.
I'm sure.
Thoughts. That's what I like about it.
I'll tell you right now.
In conversations,
what is it? Almost
2020.
20 years ago, I would have hated me now, right?
Same here.
And the thing is kind
of like me.
I look at myself 20 years ago, and I love the kid, and I go, hey man, like it's just a difference. Like my younger self would have hated me, and now all I can do is look back and go, hey man, I love you. Yeah. You're gonna get there. Like it's not gonna be a fun process. It's not gonna be an easy process. And like you talked about today, we hit on the indoctrination. It hurts sometimes. It hurts us mentally. It hurts us emotionally to try to shrug off some of that kind of stuff.
To let go of it when it was such a big part of you.
Yeah.
And it's an adjustment.
It sure is.
But we all have
it's
things.
It's growth though. It's good.
I think we all have things, because you've told me a lot about like you as a child and like just meeting your whole family, and even during the campaign, like I feel like I learned all these little stories about you. And even if you were like this like rah flag, let's go kill the terrorist guy, like there was this part about you about how you would like to help people and so forth. Like that aspect that made you maybe like skewed in your mind about what right and wrong was also made you like was the good part about you.
Yep.
Like helping other kids and
it
like
was
not being the bully when it would have been easy for you to be the bully.
You were an empathetic person.
Yeah, but and that's the terrible thing about the whole system, right? Is it takes those really, really good things and it makes you think that you're doing really, really good things when you're not. And
it does.
That's
my sisters are wonderful, wonderful people.
That's the most bastardizing thing about this and perverted thing about the whole thing. Is you take really great, good, wholesome people that believe a lot of everything that they were told, and then they act, and you're like, oh man.
And some of those people lose themselves.
And they're acting in good faith in what they believe in, too.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, done that,
Until it's once you understand, right? It's once you understand, you have that knowledge now, do you continue down the same path?
Well, I think it has different effects for different people. We should talk about that one day. I think it breaks some people. I think it makes some people evil. Like they might have not been evil before, but it makes
Sure.
them evil. And some people wake up, like there's a whole skew of
Sure.
of
Yeah,
what
it's a
happens.
spectrum for sure. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here on the Rebellion today. It's been your place
The best
for
questions are like at the end.
Yeah,
It's so
peace, liberty, and free markets. We could make this a 2-part episode. If you've got anything to bring to our attention, go to info@rebellionpod.com. We'll have a look at it, maybe post it to Facebook and talk about it here on the show. If you've really enjoyed the show and you want to help us spread the message to more and more people, you can go to patreon.com/rebellionpod. We need more reviews. We actually got a new patron. We'll address that one on the next show. Thank you very much.
We got a new review too. We're at 99.
We'll read those later this afternoon. 99, almost 100. You got a review up there?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we read it a
Yeah.
long time ago. But I think that's it. Banks, anything from you?
No, thank you, Kelly, for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. I didn't know what to expect.
I didn't know when we were going to do this,
I trust
but
you guys, so I was like, all right. But
this is
loved
really
it.
good, and I appreciate your courage in coming in here.
Yeah.
If I get you in any trouble, I go ahead and
I don't.
apologize.
I mean, hey, I own my.
That's right.
I own my words.
So this has been your place for peace, liberty, and free markets. We love you.
We need you.
Peace.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.